I'm Ashley, 32 years old. They lowered my daughter's tiny coffin into the ground, and I stood there, alone, surrounded by cold flowers and the pitying eyes of strangers. No Thomas, my husband, no in-laws. They had chosen to be with Robert, Thomas's brother, at his lavish wedding instead of being here with me and my daughter in the most painful moment of my life. There was no hand to hold me up, no embrace to remind me I wasn't alone. Only the wind brushing through my hair, carrying the smell of damp earth and the heavy sound of soil hitting the coffin lid. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Its screen lit up in the gloomy air, showing a message from my mother-in-law. "We need to talk." Now below it were 22 missed calls, all from the same side of the family I once wished so deeply to be part of, and one video still playing, capturing my husband's betrayal, mocking my loneliness. In that moment, I didn't know what hurt more, losing my daughter or being betrayed by the very people who should have shared this grief with me. I held the phone tight in my hand, fingers trembling. I just stood there, staring into the emptiness where a piece of my heart had just been buried with her. If you're reading this, what would you do if you were in my place? Tap like and follow to find out how I found my strength when the man I loved most turned his back on me the day our daughter left this world. I met Thomas in my second year of college, in a quiet corner of the campus library. He accidentally bumped into me, sending the stack of management books in my arms scattering across the floor. Instead of offering a quick apology and walking away, Thomas knelt down to pick up every book, his eyes awkward but sincere. "Can I make it up to you with a coffee?" he said, flashing a shy smile I couldn't refuse. That cup of coffee turned into dinner, then a movie night, and eventually 5 years of marriage. I truly believed that as long as I had Thomas, I could face anything, but his family never thought the same. They looked at me with suspicion and disdain. I came from a working-class background. My dad was a construction worker, my mom worked in a garment factory. They were honest, hard-working people who raised me with pride and resilience. But to Thomas's family, who put social status above all else, I was like someone from another planet. "She's not the right one, Thomas," his mother, Trina, would often say whenever my name came up. "Think about your future. She can't give you the life you deserve." His father was even more blunt. "That girl has no connections, no family background, just delusional dreams." To them, I was someone who would drag him down. But Thomas held my hand tightly and told me my love, intelligence, and kindness mattered more than any glittering surface. I believed him. I staked my entire life on that belief. We had a simple wedding, paid for entirely by ourselves because we didn't want help from Thomas's family. We knew the price of their help was invisible strings. His family attended, but their discomfort showed through forced smiles and how they avoided speaking to my parents. Robert, Thomas's older brother, barely looked up from his phone, only doing so to make snide comments about the modest venue or the lack of elegance in the food. Claire, my bridesmaid and best friend since elementary school, seemed like a different person. Instead of being by my side, she spent most of her time sitting with Robert, occasionally tilting her head and laughing at his jokes. Still, I was grateful she was there, one of the few remaining ties to my childhood. Our marriage, at least in the first year, was everything I had dreamed of. We bought a small apartment, both of us working full-time. I was a freelance graphic designer, and Thomas continued working at his family's company. In the evenings, I'd cook simple dinners while Thomas ate and shared stories from work, sometimes joking around until I laughed so hard I forgot how tired I was. On weekends, we'd stroll through the park near our home, dreaming about a future with a small house and a grassy yard where our kids could run around. I thought that kind of quiet happiness was all I ever needed. We wanted 2 kids, a house with a yard, maybe even a dog. Simple dreams, but made special because we'd build them together. But every visit to his parents' house pulled me right back down. Their mansion was so big that my footsteps echoed coldly across the floors. Family dinners were filled with comparisons. They'd throw subtle jabs about our tiny apartment, about how Thomas wasn't devoting himself fully to work like they expected, or why we hadn't had children yet. Meanwhile, Robert was constantly praised. He had launched his own company, had powerful friends, and recently started dating the daughter of a wealthy family. "When will you give me a grandchild?" Trina would ask me during family dinners, her voice laced with blame. But just 10 minutes later, she'd turn to Robert's girlfriend and smile sweetly. "Career first, sweetheart. Priorities." The favoritism was blatant, but I got used to it. Thomas often held my hand under the table. His silence was more comforting than any approval from his family. I tried twice, 3 times as hard, working late to prove my worth, saving every little bit in hopes that one day I'd earn their recognition. I believed if I worked hard enough, if I was patient enough, they'd see my value. But his mother's eyes only grew colder. His father's frown deepened, and Robert's sarcasm sharpened like a blade, trying to sever me from that family. The greatest joy in our marriage came in the second year, when I gave birth to our daughter. It was a spring morning, after hours of labor, and the moment I heard her first cry, everything felt worth it. Thomas was there the whole time, holding my hand, his eyes filled with tears when he held her for the first time. "She looks just like you," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. "We named her Lily, after my favorite flower, a symbol of purity and new beginnings." But that joy was quickly tested by reality. I spent nearly all my time caring for Lily, nursing her through sleepless nights, changing diapers, soothing her cries. At the same time, I began building my own career, launching a small graphic design company and working from home to keep everything balanced. Thomas tried to help at first, but gradually, the distance between us grew with every sleepless night. He spent more time at the office, came home late with a tired face, talked less, and the once warm hugs turned stiff. I told myself it was just work stress, but deep down, I felt an emptiness growing between us, like a quiet crack waiting to split wide open. Everything changed 6 months ago. My daughter Lily started showing unusual signs of fatigue, her little face pale after just a bit of play. We thought maybe she was just tired, maybe lacking sleep or nutrients. But then one morning, Lily collapsed in the backyard while running, her lips turning purple. The diagnosis came quickly and cruelly: a severe congenital heart defect, a rare condition that prevented her heart from functioning properly. The doctor's voice was low and heavy. "She only has a few months left, even with aggressive treatment." I called Thomas's family right away, my voice breaking as I shared the devastating news about our daughter. "Oh, that's terrible," my mother-in-law Trina said, but her voice held only a faint trace of concern, like she was commenting on something distant and unrelated. "Did you get a second opinion?" Doctors tend to exaggerate these things. "Mom, we saw 3 different cardiologists," I said, trying to hold back tears. "They all said the same thing." "Well, try to stay positive." "You never know. Things might just improve on their own," she said, then quickly changed the subject. "By the way, Robert just announced he's proposing to his girlfriend." The family's getting ready for a big, beautiful wedding. The conversation shifted to Robert, as if Lily's illness was barely worth a mention. I hung up the phone, feeling hollow, though not surprised. When I told Claire, she seemed genuine at first, her eyes red, promising she'd help with anything I needed. But as the weeks passed and Lily began treatment, Claire slowly vanished. There was always an excuse: work, family, or that she wasn't feeling well. "I'll stop by this weekend," she texted, only to cancel last minute. Meanwhile, Lily faced her illness with a courage that made me both proud and heartbroken. The treatments weakened her hair thinned, and her tiny body lost its energy. I quit work, handed everything over to my assistant. I learned to monitor her heart rate, prepare special meals when she could still eat, clean up after she vomited from the meds. I became caregiver, researcher, protector, but still tried to be a mother, not just a nurse. Through all of it, Thomas's family was practically invisible. I sent regular updates about Lily's condition, but received only brief, perfunctory replies. Robert never visited. My mother-in-law came once, after I begged, stood awkwardly in the hospital room for 15 minutes, then left with visible relief. In contrast, my own parents were present for nearly every emergency visit. My dad carried bags of homemade food himself. My mom sat by Lily's bed for hours, telling stories to soothe her during painful episodes. The image of my mother holding my daughter, gently patting her back and whispering, "Grandma's here," left me choked and aching. That kind of quiet love was something I never found on Thomas's side. As I wasted away from sleepless nights, Thomas only drifted further. He left early, came home late, often using work as an excuse to avoid taking night shifts at the hospital. One night, I called him from the hospital, voice trembling because Lily had just suffered a brief cardiac arrest. He flatly replied, "I'm in a meeting." "Just hang in there," then hung up. I sank onto the white hospital hallway floor, my phone slipping from my hand, my chest heaving as I tried to breathe. When I confronted him about his detachment and his family's, Thomas said, "People react differently in a crisis. Some can't handle seeing the ones they love in pain." Even as he pulled away, he still made excuses for his family, the very people who should have been there for me and our daughter. My friends, unrelated by blood, visited often. They brought small toys for Lily, told stories to make her smile, even if they were faint, tired smiles. My parents moved closer to the hospital for a while, taking turns with me so I could rest a few hours. The difference between them and Thomas's family couldn't have been more stark. But then, as Lily's condition worsened, another announcement came. Robert was officially engaged to Sophia, the daughter of a wealthy family. Trina called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "We're planning a wonderful wedding." The country club agreed to host it, and we've booked the best catering in town. Lily will be the flower girl, won't she? "When's the wedding?" I asked, my heart heavy with dread. 3 weeks from now, on Saturday. We wanted to do it soon, while the weather's nice for the photos," she replied. My heart nearly stopped. "Mom, Lily's not well. The doctor said she only has a few weeks left. I can't leave her." A long, heavy silence followed. "Ashley, Robert only gets married once," Trina said firmly. "Surely Lily will understand if you take one evening to celebrate with the family." "She's dying, Mom," I cried, tears pouring out. "My daughter is dying." "Fine. We'll be sorry to miss you. I'll tell Robert you send your regards." When the doctor said Lily had only weeks left, I begged Thomas, "Please, talk to Robert. Just delay it a little, so we can be with her." But Thomas looked at me like I'd said something outrageous. "Robert only gets married once. You want me to miss that?" I was stunned. My daughter was still breathing, still calling me Mom every morning, and yet in my husband's eyes, her death weighed less than a wedding party. Lily's condition declined faster than expected. One last experimental treatment we had pinned our hopes on failed horribly, triggering seizures that left her hospitalized for an entire week. Her cardiologist pulled me aside once things stabilized. "I'm so sorry, Ashley," she said, her eyes full of sincere regret. "We've run out of medical options. From now on, the goal is to keep her as comfortable as possible. You need to start preparing." Those words sliced through me like a blade. It meant giving up the fight. It meant accepting the inevitable. It meant beginning to say goodbye. I kept sending updates to Thomas's family, clinging to the foolish hope that they'd grasp how serious the situation was, that somehow my grief would pierce through their bubble of indifference. My messages grew more desperate. "The doctor says we only have days left. Please come." Trina replied, sending prayers for her. Then immediately followed up with, "By the way, did you see the photo I sent of Sophia's wedding ring? 5 carats, absolutely stunning." No one came. I looked at Lily, once full of energy and light, now fading more and more each day, her eyes dulling. She tried to stay cheerful. She worried more about me than herself. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself, okay?" she whispered during a rare lucid moment, her voice weak but firm. "You have to keep smiling, Mom." I promised, even though I couldn't imagine joy in a world without Lily. The night before Robert's wedding, Lily's breathing grew labored. The nurse gently explained that this was often a sign of the final stage. I called Thomas, my voice trembling. I think Lily will pass tonight or tomorrow. Please, I need you here. He sighed on the phone. Ashley, some of the company's partners are attending the wedding. My parents will be disappointed if I'm not there. Our daughter is dying, Thomas, I screamed into the phone, startling the nurse. Don't get overly emotional, he replied coldly. I'll try. I hung up, my hands shaking in fury and disbelief. My daughter took her final breath at 9:30 a.m. in my arms, just as the morning sun slipped through the hospital curtains. Her tiny hand went cold, slipping from my fingers, and her purple lips no longer called me Mom. I broke down sobbing, the kind of cry that tears through a silent room, while my parents held me tightly to keep me from collapsing onto the cold floor. Thomas wasn't there. He was busy raising a glass at Robert's lavish wedding. Lily passed peacefully, without pain. Her last words to me were, I love you, Mom. I sat frozen beside her body, unable to accept that the small light of my life had gone out. My parents helped me contact the funeral home we had reluctantly chosen weeks before. They stayed as the staff came to take Lily's body, supporting me when my knees buckled. My hand trembled as I checked my phone. Not a single message from Thomas. I sent a brief text to the family group chat. Lily passed away this morning. Funeral details to follow. Trina was the first to respond. Sorry for your loss. Not, we're on our way. Not, what can we do? Just a distant acknowledgement. Neither Thomas nor Robert responded. I had nothing left to say. I didn't reply to anyone. The next 48 hours passed in a fog of funeral planning. Every decision tore at my already shattered heart. I scheduled the service for Tuesday, 2 days after Lily's death. That seemed like enough time for the Murphy family to attend, after their precious wedding wrapped up. I no longer hoped for compassion, but Lily was still a Murphy by blood. I couldn't let her go without a farewell. I created a social media event with the funeral details, tagging the entire Murphy family. I sent the same information to our group chat. I even emailed Thomas directly, attaching a map to the funeral home. Responses trickled in. Trina, I'll try to make it. Robert sent a thumbs-up emoji. And my husband said nothing. I wanted to scream. My daughter died at 5. My entire world collapsed. And yet Robert was exhausted from his wedding. Thomas showed no sign that he had ever loved our daughter. On Monday, I chose Lily's burial outfit, the pink dress she wore at her 3rd birthday, now hanging loosely on her fragile body. I smoothed the fabric, remembering her radiant smile that day, how she danced in the sunlight. That night, Claire, my best friend, called. Ashley, I'm so sorry about everything. The wedding was honestly exhausting, and I feel awful I wasn't there. But I promise I'll be at the funeral tomorrow morning. Do you want me to come by tonight? We could have a drink and talk. No, I replied, my voice flat. I need to be alone tonight. I understand. I'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m., right? I'll be on time. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. At least someone from my old life would be beside me. The next morning was gray and drizzly, as if the weather too understood the darkest day of my life. I wore a black dress my mom had rushed out to buy for me. When I picked them up, she hugged me tightly. We're here for you, sweetheart, she whispered. Today and always. I checked my phone. 8:15 a.m. No sign of Claire. No messages from the Murphy family. I quickly texted Claire. Are you on your way? At 8:30, guests began arriving. My coworkers, old classmates, neighbors from our apartment building, each sharing sincere condolences. And stories about Lily that made me smile through tears. 9:30. Still no Thomas. No one from his family. Not even my best friend. My phone stayed silent. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock. I sat in the front row between my parents, painfully aware of the empty seats reserved for the Murphy family. The officiant spoke about Lily's short but radiant life, her smile, how she lit up every room. Friends shared memories, how she loved painting with watercolors, how she sang along to her favorite songs. When it was my turn to speak, I could barely stand. Facing those who truly loved Lily, not my in-laws, their absence felt like a physical wound. But I had promised Lily I'd be strong. I opened the paper I had prepared and spoke about my daughter, who changed my life, who taught me to be brave, even when she couldn't lift her hand to touch me. After the service, my phone buzzed with a social media notification. Robert had posted new wedding photos. I should have ignored it, but something self-destructive made me open it. There they were, Thomas and his family, raising champagne glasses at the wedding, dressed to the nines as if nothing else in the world mattered. The timestamp showed the photos were from yesterday, not Saturday. The wedding had clearly stretched into days of celebration. We moved on to the cemetery for the burial. The small motorcade quietly made its way across the city to the peaceful plot where Lily would rest. As her casket was lowered, I stood alone at the edge of the grave. My parents stepped back to give me space for a final goodbye. The rain mingled with my tears. I whispered the words I'd said to Lily every night. I love you. As the first shovel of earth hit the casket, my phone lit up. A message from Thomas. Where are you? I glanced at the notification screen. Below were 22 missed calls from Thomas, Trina, Robert, and Claire, all within the past hour. I turned off my phone and watched as my daughter's casket was buried. The house had never felt so empty when I returned from the cemetery. My parents offered to stay, but I needed to be alone with the pain. I wandered through the rooms like a ghost, touching Lily's toys, inhaling the fading scent of her on the small pillow. When I turned my phone back on, it vibrated nonstop. Voicemails, messages, missed calls. I started with Trina's text. Ashley, I'm sorry I couldn't attend the funeral. Robert got sick this morning after the wedding. Thomas's message was the same, full of vague apologies. We couldn't let Robert down by leaving the reception early. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. Robert's message was one line. Sorry about Lily. Crazy busy with the wedding stuff. Hope the funeral went okay. I set the phone down, emotionally drained beyond words. How could they justify missing my daughter's funeral for a 3-day wedding celebration? As I made coffee, an email notification popped up. It was from Timothy, one of Thomas's friends, who had once visited Lily at the hospital. Subject line, you should see this. I opened it to find a video file attached. Timothy's message was brief. I was at the Grand Hotel yesterday for a work lunch. Your family was there celebrating Robert's wedding. I thought you should know what they said. I'm so sorry, Ashley. With trembling hands, I opened the video. It showed the hotel's outdoor terrace, decorated with flowers and balloons. Thomas and his family were gathered around a large table, champagne glasses in hand. Robert was standing, appearing to give a toast. The sound, though filmed from afar, was shockingly clear. Robert finished his speech, and Sophia stood up, slightly wobbly, probably tipsy. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with us, she said, beaming. And special thanks to my parents for this amazing party, even though my sister-in-law had to make a fuss. Laughter erupted. Seriously, Sophia went on, Ashley's always full of drama. A poor girl who tried to change her life by marrying Thomas, and now she's ruining everything with her kid's illness during my wedding. Trina patted Sophia's hand, but said nothing. Thomas just looked down, said nothing. Thank you for prioritizing what really matters. Sophia raised her glass. Trina leaned toward Claire and whispered, Ashley called yesterday saying the kid was dying, asking us to rush over the day before Robert's wedding. The nerve, faking something like that, I stopped the video, feeling physically ill, my stomach twisting. They hadn't just accidentally missed the funeral. They had chosen to party, mocking my grief and my loss. But what shattered me completely was the last scene of the video. Thomas, my husband, being pulled away by another woman. Lacey Hayes, the daughter of a family friend Trina had once called a better match for him. Timothy had tried to follow. Discreetly. The camera wobbled with each step until it caught them sharing a secret kiss. I collapsed to the floor, my chest tight as if gripped by a vice. Years of effort, of trying to be accepted, of trying to belong to that family, all reduced to a cruel joke. Even my husband, leaving me alone with our daughter's death and his betrayal. I stared blankly around the now silent house, once filled with my daughter's laughter. Now there was only me, cold walls, and a truth that cut deeper than anything I had ever known. A CT5. I scrolled back through old messages with Thomas's family, year after year. The same patterns of indifference, of minimizing my pain. My parents had seen it early. "They don't respect you," they had said back when I hadn't even gotten married. I defended them, made excuses, just so I could stay with Thomas. As night fell, I got a message from Trina. "Thomas and I want to talk about your company. We need your signature to adjust some things. Are you doing okay? Come to my house tomorrow, okay?" I called Davis, a friend I met at the hospital, while he was caring for his sick son. He had attended Lily's funeral this morning and offered to stop by if I needed company. "Do you know anything about divorce and company shares I built after marriage?" I asked when he picked up. "Divorce," he replied. "Why?" "My in-laws want my company." "Now? In the middle of this?" Davis's voice grew cautious. "Ashley, don't sign anything right now, especially not after just losing your child. Let me have my friend, Tom. He's a divorce attorney. Take a look, okay? Would that be too much to ask?" "Not at all." Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Claire standing on the porch, holding a bouquet and a bottle of wine. "Someone's here. I'll call you back," I said quickly to Davis. I wasn't planning to open the door, but part of me craved the confrontation. I needed it. I opened the door, but stood blocking the entrance. Claire's eyes were red, mascara smeared. "Ashley, I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "Please let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked coldly. "That you chose a party over being there at my daughter's funeral?" Claire went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't attend the wedding," she stammered. "You know how much I liked Robert. I was just so upset when he got married." "No, I didn't know." I cut her off. "You never told me about this betrayal." Her face hardened, a flicker of anger showing. "You never consider anyone else, Ashley." Always so perfect, always the victim. Robert was right. Everything is always about you. "My daughter died," I shouted, not caring if the neighbors heard. "She died, and none of you cared enough to show up." No one was there for the worst moment of my life. "We cared," Claire said quietly. "It's just, I was dealing with my own emotions." "We've been friends for 20 years. Don't throw that away over words said in anger." "You threw it away," I said, suddenly calm. "Not me." Leave. I pushed her out and slammed the door, leaning against it as sobs shook my body. The next morning, I woke to several missed calls and a message from Thomas. "We'll come by at 11. We need to resolve this." I didn't reply, but I knew they'd show up anyway. I called Tom, Davis's friend, who had kindly reviewed the documents Thomas's family emailed the night before. "Ashley, I'm glad you had me look at this," he said, his voice serious. "These papers would transfer your entire company's ownership to Thomas, under the excuse that they're concerned about your mental health and want him to take over management. They're saying you need rest, but it's just an excuse to take control. It's a trap." "Don't sign," Tom advised. "I recommend you get your own lawyer to review everything related to this family from now on." At exactly 11, the doorbell rang. The security camera showed Thomas, Trina, Robert, and Robert's new wife standing on the porch. I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Finally, you opened the door," Trina said, brushing past me into the living room. "I've been trying to reach you all day." 48 hours, I corrected. "It's been exactly 48 hours since Lily passed." Don't be dramatic, Ashley, Robert scoffed, dropping onto the sofa. Everyone knew she'd been sick for months. We thought it was just another overreaction. Thomas at least looked guilty. But he said nothing. What are you all doing here? I asked, still standing, while they made themselves comfortable. We're worried about you, Trina said, but her eyes didn't hold an ounce of sincerity. You're isolating yourself. That's not healthy. We want you to come stay with the family for a while. There are also some things to take care of. Thomas nodded, pointing at the folder. Just a few minor documents about the company. Documents to transfer my company shares to you, right? I asked, my tone calm. Their stunned faces almost made me laugh, if the situation weren't so tragic. Thomas stammered. That's private family business. Yes, about my company, I replied. You think I'd sign without reading? Without consulting a lawyer? Right after my daughter's funeral? You had no right to show that to outsiders, Trina shouted. Just like you had no right to skip my daughter's funeral for a party? Anne. Oppressive silence filled the room. Robert broke it with a scoff. Still stuck on that? It wasn't just a party, it was my wedding. A once-in-a-lifetime event. And Lily's funeral wasn't? I said, my voice steady, even as anger churned inside me. Is a child dying just something routine? People die every day, Robert shrugged, but I only get married once. Honestly, with how often you rotate girlfriends, I doubt it'll be your last, I said. Robert's face flushed. How dare you? I saw the video, I continued, facing them. From the wedding. I heard what you said about me, and Lily Trina went pale. What video? I pulled out my phone and played it. Their expressions shifted from confusion to embarrassment to defensiveness as their own words filled the room. When it ended, Thomas spoke first. That was taken out of context. What context justifies mocking my daughter, laughing at my grief, or kissing another woman? What context makes that acceptable? Ashley, it was a mistake, Thomas began. No, I cut him off. All of you, this is who you really are. You've always been like this. I listed all the pain I had endured over the past 6 months. I've thought long and hard about how your family treated me since Lily got sick. I started documenting everything. These are the birthdays and Christmases you missed, the school events you ignored, 5 years of the same patterns. Nonsense, Trina scoffed. You're acting like a child. No, I'm acting like someone who finally sees the truth, I said. You never loved me or Lily. I've always been the thing that drags the Murphy family down. And now I know. You never saw me as one of you. Of course I love you, Thomas insisted. I saw confusion in his face, but not regret. Only the realization that I was no longer under his control. I'm here, Ashley. You're here to take my company, I said. Right after my daughter's funeral, which none of you attended. That's not love, Robert stood up, clearly irritated. Are we done here? Just sign the papers. You can't run that company after what happened to Lily. The cruelty in his words left even Trina speechless. Get out, I said, my voice low and firm. All of you, get out of my house. Ashley, calm down, Trina began. Get out, I screamed, years of restraint finally exploding. I've put up with this my whole life. I let myself be treated as lesser, overlooked, disrespected. No more. I flung the door open. From this moment on, I have no family, no husband, no brother-in-law, no best friend. You're all strangers to me. Ashley, don't do this, Thomas stammered. We're married. Husbands don't do what you did, I replied. A husband shows up when it matters. He doesn't kiss someone else at his daughter's funeral. Get out one by one. They left. Thomas stunned, Trina furious, Robert fuming. As Trina passed, she grabbed my hand. You'll regret this, she hissed. When the grief fades, you'll need us. I gently pulled her hand off. No, I won't. Especially not you, Trina, Her face twisted briefly before it hardened into an angry mask as I called her by name. Without another word, she walked to the car. When I shut the door, a strange peace washed over me. For the first time in my life, I stood up for myself. I should have done it sooner, louder, to protect my daughter from their judgmental stares. I called Tom back and asked him to prepare the divorce papers. Thomas had betrayed me, not just with that kiss, but in the way he chose his family, their parties, over our daughter. I no longer had a husband. That night, I reached out to a therapist specializing in grief and family trauma. I called Davis to thank him and his friend, Tom, for helping me with the legal paperwork. I began searching for support groups for people who've lost a child and those who've cut ties with toxic spouses. My new life began, built from the ashes of what I had lost. But for the first time, I was putting myself first. The weeks following the confrontation with Thomas's family were the hardest, but also the freest time of my life. Grief came in waves, sudden and fierce. Sometimes I burst into tears in the middle of the grocery store after seeing Lily's favorite cookies, or broke down folding her tiny shirts, still clinging to her scent. My therapist, Dr. Linda Myers, helped me understand that I was facing two losses at once: my daughter and my husband. Complicated grief, she called it, explaining that Thomas's betrayal had tangled the mourning process for Lily even more. Your loss wasn't acknowledged or supported by the very people who were supposed to be your main source of comfort, she said in one session. That creates a trauma layered on top of the loss. 3 weeks after the funeral, I attended my first meeting of a support group for bereaved parents. Walking into that room at the community center was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Admitting I belonged there made Lily's death feel real in a new way. The group had 8 people, from young women to fathers in their 60s. What bound us together wasn't age, but experience. The unique pain of watching someone you love slip away. The exhausting bureaucracy of death certificates and insurance. The careless, painful questions from acquaintances. Are you dating again? Have you moved on? I learned from their words. I returned to work part-time, thanked my assistant and team for keeping the business afloat, even when I wasn't around. My parents checked in often. Not intrusive, just making sure I knew they were there. My mom sent care packages with homemade cookies and silly little gifts that made me smile. My dad helped me sort through insurance documents and made repairs around my new place. Trina called a few times after the confrontation, leaving voicemails about rebuilding the family and Thomas's recent emotional instability. I didn't answer. Robert sent a single text. You're being dramatic. Call Thomas was more persistent, sending emails, messages, even handwritten letters expressing regret and asking for a second chance. I read them all, but only felt emptiness where love used to be. 4 months after Lily's death, we divorced. I was awarded the old apartment, but I decided to sell it. Every corner held memories, beautiful, but also painful. The day I moved out, my parents gave me a USB drive. It was a video they had helped Lily record during her final weeks, when she still had the strength to speak. Mommy, her voice rang out, weak but bright. You're the strongest mom I know. I love you so much. If there's another life, I still want to be your daughter. I clutched the laptop to my chest and cried uncontrollably, but also felt an overwhelming sense of connection with her. Through those words, Lily was still guiding me, still loving me, still believing in me. That video became my talisman. I took it with me to therapy sessions, support group meetings, on the hard days when grief threatened to drown me. Lily's belief in me became the foundation on which I began to rebuild my life. Today, at a little cafe near the support center, I saw Davis again. His eyes softened with empathy as I told him about the worst days, when my daughter was fading in the hospital, and Thomas didn't even show up. I paused, choking up, and Davis quietly placed his hand on mine, saying nothing, letting his presence speak for him. I used to think I wouldn't survive either, he said gently, his voice low. The day my son died, I sat in his room for hours, just to hold on to his scent. But Ashley, you're stronger than you think. You stood up just like you fought for your daughter. I told him about the video Lily left behind, the loving message I replay every night. Davis smiled, eyes misty, and pulled from his pocket a small notebook where he wrote unsent letters to his son. Sometimes I write that I'm proud of him, even though he can't hear it anymore, he said. We sat there, the sound of soft rain tapping the windows around us, sharing the shattered pieces of our hearts. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. Davis didn't promise to heal me, but his sincerity, his way of listening and sharing, made me believe that maybe, just maybe, I could begin again. My parents came to visit on the 1-year anniversary of Lily's passing. Together, we went to her favorite park. The day was clear and bright, sunlight glittering across the grass. Lily would have loved today, my dad said, putting his arm around me as we sat on a bench. She'd be proud of you, my mom added, for the way you've kept going. I nodded, unable to speak through the lump in my throat. But for the first time, the pain felt bearable, not gone, never gone, but woven into my life instead of swallowing it. That evening, I received an email from Trina with the subject, Family Emergency. The message was short. Thomas was in a car accident. He's in the hospital. Michael wants to see you. We need your help. Call me. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity made me search for information. A local news article confirmed Thomas had been injured in a collision. For a moment, I considered replying. Then I remembered the video where they laughed at Lily's illness, their absence from the funeral, the scheme to take my company. Instead of calling back, I sent Trina a list of mental health resources and therapy programs, without a personal message. As the seasons changed, so did I. The woman who stood alone by her daughter's grave was still a part of me, but no longer all of me. I began building a life Lily would be proud of, with people who valued me for who I truly am. I still talk to her, especially at night, telling her about my day, small wins and quiet failures, the new friends I've made. In my heart, I can still hear her encouragement, her laughter, her love. You were right, I whisper to Lily's photo on my nightstand. I'm stronger than I thought. On the 2nd anniversary of Lily's passing, I took the day off work and drove to the cemetery. Her gravestone was simple but elegant, just the way she would have wanted. I laid fresh flowers beside it and sat on the little bench I had installed nearby. 2 years now, my love, I said aloud, sitting on the bench by Lily's grave, no longer shy about speaking to her. I placed the bouquet of white lilies next to the headstone, my fingers gently tracing the letters of her name. Suddenly, I sensed someone behind me, slow footsteps across the damp grass. I turned and saw Thomas. Thinner, streaks of gray in his hair, eyes tired but painfully familiar. Ashley, he said, his voice raspy, as if unsure I'd respond. I didn't know you'd be here, but I always hoped I'd see you. I stood, keeping my distance, fists clenched. What do you want, Thomas? He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on Lily's grave. I'm sorry. For everything. For not being there when Lily needed me, when you needed me. For letting my family hurt you, he told me, voice breaking, about how his family fell apart after Robert's wedding. He and Robert had a huge argument when he realized they had manipulated him, made him turn away from me and Lily. I was wrong, Ashley. I got caught up in their expectations, in the idea of someone more suitable, in everything. But there's not a day I don't regret it. I looked at him, the man who was once my entire world, now just a stranger in familiar skin. What do you want? To come back? I asked, voice even. I just want to reconnect, he said, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Just talk if you'll let me. I looked down at Lily's headstone, remembered her smile, the video she left behind, that tiny but fierce voice telling me to keep going. I'm not promising anything, Thomas, I said. I've rebuilt my life. Not to go back to the past. He nodded, lips pressed tight, then turned away, his silhouette fading into the setting sun. When I got home, I felt a strange sense of relief. Not because I had forgiven Thomas. I wasn't ready, and maybe I never would be. But because I realized I didn't need him to be whole. I had found the strength Lily always saw in me. My life now held new meaning. My little house with its blooming garden had become my peace. My business had grown, more loyal clients, and my weekly grief support sessions at the community center became a place where I connected with kindred spirits. Davis had become a steady part of my life. Not a romantic relationship, not yet, but a deep friendship where we shared the broken pieces of our hearts. One night, I told him about Lily, about the small work struggles of the day. Davis smiled and held my hand. We sat there, listening to the rain tapping on the windows, sharing our fragments. I learned that family isn't always who you hope for. It's who shows up. My parents, Davis. They were my chosen family, the ones who cherished me for me. Forgiveness, I realized, doesn't mean reconciliation. I forgave Thomas, his family, my best friend, not to bring them back, but to free myself from the weight of resentment. I feel Lily with me, guiding me each step. Every flower that blooms in my garden, every smile I share in those support circles, every day I wake up and choose to live. That's how I honor her. She was right. I'm stronger than I thought. If you're reading this and facing betrayal from those you loved, like how Thomas abandoned me in my darkest hour, I want you to know that healing is possible. Find the strength to walk away from toxic ties, even if it's your spouse. Build a life with people who value you, like I did, with my parents, with Davis, with new friends. A chosen family can bring more genuine love than the relationships that broke you. Share your story, and remember, you are stronger than you think. Lily taught me that, and I hope my story inspires you to find your own strength.